over to someone I have a tremendous amount of respect for. The gentleman that I'm bringing before you, he has his PhD in finance and economics. This is your RX for Forex. He's having a lot of fun, helping a lot of people, and he's here tonight to help you. So the power of the unmuted mic, your RX for Forex. Dr. Craig Bythewood. Dr. Bythewood, are you on the call?
Yes, I am, Ms. Dyer. Thank you very much for your introduction. And as always, a wonderful training call. I'd like to give a shout out to all of the individuals who operated in the energy of the power of the unmuted microphone tonight. Those are some really good questions. They were represented your desire and commitment to want to get this, to want to understand, and I absolutely appreciate that. So having been a professor over these last 25 years and seeing the human dynamics of question asking, I have a lot of respect for people who push past the resistance and just feel free to ask their question. And as the collective consciousness works, and it really does work like this, anytime you ask a question, there's an energy from the rest of the group that is unseen. And you're asking a question that other people have, they just weren't able to push through the resistance at that time. I wonder if I'm the only person that's ever had an idea. You know, it would be cool if we could do this, or I would want to invent that. And then we look up and it's done. And I'll give you my quick example. I remember deciding that it would be cool if we could have a phone on a watch. And of course, this was 20 years ago. You know, I have no scientific ability, but it was just an idea. And then bam, it happened. And there have been times when I would come up with a joke. And I was in Gainesville, Florida, and I came up with a joke and I heard that joke on television. So I'm saying this to say this. Every time there's an idea, you think it's yours and it is yours. But literally that idea is spread across the collective so that the universe knows that the more people that it gives the idea to, the higher the chance that it will be implemented. So if you don't jump on it immediately, someone else will. So that same type of energy operates when you all ask a question. So that's just my long finance doctor way of appreciating the questions that were asked. I would like to very briefly give my take on one of the questions that was asked and properly answered, and that was the one about the stop loss. And again, the question was very appropriate and so was the answer. But I think sometimes, especially when we're early in the learning process, it helps when we have a more applied example that has nothing to do with the complex issue. Let's be real. This is a $5.3 trillion a day industry. And we are blessed by the fact that we have an educational platform to help us understand it. But it's a process. There isn't one video, there aren't 3 videos, there aren't 5 videos. There are hundreds of videos that are part of our arsenal to be able to understand it. So I think sometimes when there's an example that has nothing to do with the complex topic, it sometimes makes us see it a little bit better. So I'd like to add a little bit of frosting to the cake of that great question and even greater answer that we received about the stop losses. So I want to take you back to when I was in high school. I was a football player, and football is associated with size and strength. And when I was in the 9th grade, I weighed 115 pounds, and I literally was the lightest person on my team. Then the next year, I was 135 as a sophomore, 155 as a junior, and then I got to my top high school weight of 175 when I was a senior. So in order for me to put on 70 pounds, did I do that right? In order to put on 60 pounds over a 4-year period, really a 3-year period because I was in the 9th grade, it took on, there was a lot of effort that I had to put into it. ate certain foods, and I went to GNC with my little extra work money and would buy these big meal replacement and weight gainers and all this kind of stuff so that I could gain weight. Well, one of the things that happened to me is that there was a doctor who actually was a pediatrician, because I'm obviously under 18. I graduated at 17. And the doctor told me that it's okay for you to gain weight, but you're doing it rapidly. So based on your bone structure and based on the size of your wrists and ankles, my wrists and ankles were very thin at that time. He said, you need to make sure that you don't go over 180 pounds. So you can continue to gain weight, but once you go over 180 pounds, then that could be detrimental to your frame. He also said to me that in terms of the weight that you were, 115 at the size and height that you are is really the lowest you can go. If you were to go to 110, then that would not be healthy for your body. So what he's saying to me is, okay, you can gain weight, but don't go below 110. You can gain weight, young man who wants to play football. At that time, I was looking for a collegiate career. I'll tell that story later, but bottom line, that was the goal. So you can continue to gain weight, but don't go below 110. That's a stop loss. It's going up, but it's not going to go down below 110. So I can continue to go from 115 to 135 to 155 to 175, but I will not go below 110. So someone asked the question, well, can you lose past your stop loss? No, because the stop loss is like the doctor's orders. The doctor said, dude, don't go below 110. You can go up, but don't go below 110. Stop loss. Now watch this. Now I'm 52, which is, of course, the new 22. So I've got a different issue. Now my issue is to make sure that I maintain a certain weight. And I want to make sure that I lose weight. So when I look at the scale every day, I've got a different goal. Now I want to go down. Sound familiar? Buy order, you want to go up. Sell order, you want to go down. At 16, I wanted to go up. At 52, I want to go down. So as a 52-year-old, I'm always making sure that I go down. Now, quick story, because this isn't about that. 2009, I had a brain tumor. And how I knew I had a brain tumor is because I gained 55 pounds in 30 days. The highest weight I was 270. And I was told that at 270, it was very unhealthy, bad for my organs, bad for my joints. And so as active as you are, 270 is not going to work. So I've got to make sure that my max weight is 270. So I'm continuing to go down, and just so that the story is complete, I'm about 215 right now. So as I'm going down, I'm going to make sure that I don't go back above 270 because it can be dangerous. That's my stop loss on a sell order. So buy order, I'm going up. I'm a teenager, I'm going up. Don't go below 110. That's the floor. Now I'm 52, I can go down, but make sure you don't go back up above 270. So the detrimental for me, the doctor's orders as a 52-year-old, is similar to the stop loss for a sale. So hopefully it makes sense. And again, I did not say anything that was not said by Ms. Dyer. I'm just putting it in a less threatening way because we don't have to think about the way the market works. And you know how this works. Let's be real about it. When we feel like we don't know something, it affects our language, it affects our energy, it affects what we say. Did you not hear the dialogue between Mr. Rogers and the good question asker who said, I think I understand? She understood. But because it's a complex situation, she put that thinking there as her own little stop loss to stop her from having full comprehension. Well, let me just say think just in case, because this is a hard topic. That's what we do. I get it. We all do that as humans. And I like the way Mr. Rogers handled that because he hit her with the, you think you're clear or you're clear. And I even loved her answer even better because she laughed it off, which meant I'm not going to make you commit. I'm a grown woman. If I don't want to commit to whether I know or not, I don't have to. I want to learn this at my own pace, and I respect that. All I'm saying is the fact that she put in the I think I understand is a result of the complexity of what we're studying, which is a beautiful thing. That's why we're here. We're here because IML said, hey, let's make this complex market available to the rest of the world. How about I tell a story that's a tangent to my tangent to my tangent? I have been a business associate and friend of Mr. Gerald D. Rogers for a number of years. And when he found out about IML and told me about IML, he made a very interesting point to me. He said to me, why didn't you tell me about this? So you knew about this market all this time and you didn't tell me? He was fussing at me. He was fussing at the finance doctor because he didn't tell him what was going on. But the reality is, I would not have, I should have, but I would not have expressed this to someone because the mentality was, it's too complex. You don't just go to your boys and say, yo, man, let me tell you about this foreign exchange market. Now, I've already said I should have, but I'm just letting you know that the way in which we deal with complex situations sometimes is we don't approach them head on the way we're doing with our training calls, with the way in which we're doing with this educational program, with the way in which we are making a decision to enroll, learn, and earn. So I'm using that just to show you that I've known him all this time, but never mentioned it because I thought it was too complex. So this is a good time to give a shout out to the individuals, Christopher Terry and his lovely bride, and the entire administrative team for making the decision that was a little bit better than mine, that you know what, we can make this so everybody understands it. So I'm with Mr. Rogers. Let's change the I think we're clears to I'm clear. And hear me, even though she wasn't ready to admit it, she certainly asked the right question to make sure she was getting clear. And that's really all that matters. So having said this, having given my little frosting to the cake of understanding as it relates to stop loss, I would like that individual to ask that question. If you have any follow-up questions or require any more clarity on my example, please do so now. Or if anybody else has questions about that, please ask. Good. So the silence to me means that the individual who asked that question gets it. And that's what it's all about. That's why we're here. So now, 13 minutes later, welcome to a talk with the finance doctor, your RX for FOREX, where we are taking the opportunity to be able to discuss every single economic and personal financial issue that we could ever deal with, in addition to understanding the way this foreign exchange market works. An opportunity for us to make sure that we not only know all of the complexities of this vast market, but that we also know what to do with those funds. So did I hear somebody unmute? Does someone have a question? Questions, comments, testimony. Let's continue to walk in the power of the unmuted microphone. Questions, comments, testimonies.
Dr. Bythewood.
Yes, sir.
Alfred Buckley.
How you doing, Mr. Buckley?
One of the things that I realized, and I'm realizing more and more, is that culture has a lot to do, or our lifestyle and what knowledge we are aware of or are connected to helps us to understand the process that we're going through right now and understanding how to profit in our situation. So basically our experiences has some understanding of how quick we may collapse timeframes or understand where we're going, how we're doing what we're doing. And I'm realizing that sometimes I look at things a little different than what's being said. But at the same time, if I understand the process, then I'll be a better person understanding different situations when I face them.
Tell me what you mean by seeing situations differently than what's being stated.
For example, Mrs. Dyer said one thing that she can, I think she made the point that she can look at the pips now, but before she had to do analysis before she got to the point where she realized where the pips were.
Correct.
And so what I'm saying, some people can see that and some people can't.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you have to do, and I'm finding it for myself, that I have to find out after I listen to everybody or listen to what's being said, I have to find out where I am and then work from there and then build myself up to where I need to understand where I need to be.
Okay, that's a great point, Mr. Buckley. You know, I referenced football a while ago. I was talking school football, and that made me think of something that my coach used to do. My coach used to say that we as a team are family. And he would say, this is you, and this is the rest of the team. And he would say, we come together. Then he would say, okay, now pull it apart. And pull it apart, pull it apart. You can't pull it apart. So Coach Darlene Nelson would get us pumped up when we would be ready to run through a wall because he would tell us to pull it apart. And still sometimes when I see my high school teammates, I go, pull it apart, and they'll laugh. So I said all that to say this. You stated that as, I'm different from other people. And the way I see it, Mr. Buckley, is that the difference is what allows us to have strength. It's what allows us to be able to have synergy. What is synergy? The simplest definition of synergy is 2 + 2 = 5. So you've got your 2 strengths, you've got my 2 strengths. Technically, that should be 4 strengths. But when we combine them together, we have an opportunity to accomplish more than we could by the sum of the parts, synergy. So what you just described, Alfred O. Buckley, is exactly the way it's supposed to be. So here's how you can look at it. This is me, and these are my strengths. Right in between each one of my strengths, there's spaces. There's nothing there. So you could call it a weakness, or you could call it an opportunity for growth. I've got opportunities for growth right there. If met somebody with 6 fingers, well, they would have a growth right in between these spaces. So I've got these 5 strengths, but I've got these spaces as well. Well, you have strengths as well. When I say you, I mean everybody else. Everybody else has strengths as well, but they're different strengths. These strengths are the same as these strengths. So my strengths can go in and fill your holes. My strengths can go in and fill your gaps. My strengths can go in and fill in your weaknesses, and your strengths can come fill in mine. So now we have this synergy. We have this bond. We have this collective consciousness. We have this ability for one person to have to go through a process to understand PIPs, where another person can understand the PIPs right away, but the person who doesn't understand the PIPs right away has an ability to be able to explain something in a way that would be beneficial, and the other person has another set of strengths. So it's the collective consciousness. It's literally the bond that allows us to do what we do. We can sit at home and we can watch our videos by ourselves. But coming to a forum like this allows us to have a synergistic benefit. So what you describe, Alfred O. Buckley, as being me thinking differently than everybody else, I look at it as this is the way it's designed. This is the purpose. This is the reason why we come together, so we can have a stronger bond that we won't be able to pull apart. Pull it apart. Questions, comments, testimonies. Thank you for that, Alfred O. Buckley. Shout out to Darlene Nelson, my high school football coach. Questions, comments, testimonies from anyone? I am a little curious. The person that asked the stop loss question, Are you in full understanding of this concept right now?
Yes.
Hey, it was Stacey. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that response. So questions, comments, testimonies about anything within this economic pie. You know, I made this point earlier this week as someone, a different person, called me and asked me a personal financial question. And I made the point that, and of course they were saying what they thought and wanted me to clear up what they thought. And as I explained to them what the reality of it was, they continued to refute what I was saying. Same situation that I talked about last week, but a different person. So it's very interesting the way we are so emotionally connected to answers, and even though we're asking for a solution. So I said all that just to say that when we're in a situation where we can learn about all of these economic slices, and let me reset this just in case someone may not have heard this before. To me, the foreign exchange market is a very important financial slice. It's a very important part of the economic pie. It's a huge part of the economic pie, but it is a part. Whereas the economic pie, to me, represents everything that we could possibly do. Insurance, retirement plans, banks, credit cards, investing, estate planning. All of these things fall under the economic pie. And even those things that are going on that I'm not bringing up. Anything that has anything to do with money, taxes, all of that revolves around it. Well, I said to that person, I say all the time, the two most dangerous words in personal finance, the two most dangerous words in personal finance are, I heard. I heard. Especially since oftentimes the people that you hear the things from have an incentive to present things in a certain way where you will think or you will act based on what's beneficial to the organization and not necessarily what's beneficial to you. In fact, that's what the BYOB movement is all about. Be your own bank, where we are taking the opportunity to think from an institutional perspective or to think like institutions do so that we have total control over making the decisions that are best for us. So there's so many components within this personal financial situation that we should ask. Here's one right here. Just thought about this. I received a call 4 o'clock this afternoon from one of my former students. And I'll be the first to admit that this particular former student was a really strong gentleman, had his life together, and then he had a drug problem. So he spiraled downward, he's gone through several iterations in his life. But I always kind of hear that spark in his voice that he wants better. And he calls and asks me these very complex questions. And sometimes based on his subconscious view of the world, he gets into a lot of conflict-based scenarios, and he'll call me to bail me out, to help him bail out of the situation. I always say the same thing. You need to understand the power of front-end managing versus back-end managing. So how about I tell you his story first, and then I'll go back to that point about front-end and back-end managing. So he called me today to ask me a tax question. And this is what he said. He said, Doc, I've got an address on my license that's not real. I had to do that in order to be able to get a driver's license and not put myself in harm's way based on some crimes I did in the past. Very honest with me, always has been. So based on that, I filled out my taxes, and they told me I would get a refund. And I heard him say, I walked out of there and they said they would give me a refund. Then they called me back and say, oh, there's a glitch. And we sent the PIN number to your address on your license, and you have to use the PIN number in order to get your refund. Or you can pay us $200 and then we will allow you to get your refund without the PIN code. So I said, it's interesting that you said walked out of there. Where did you walk out of? Who was the institution? My grandmother used to always say, baby, consider the source. Baby, consider the source. So I asked him, who's the source? Who's the person that's talking? Who's the individual that gave you these two parameters? And he said that it was an organization called Tax something, Tax Monkey, Tax something. I really don't remember. But it was an outside entity. So I explained to him, listen, when it comes to taxes, the organization that handles it is the Internal Revenue Service. In our society, you can deal with them directly. So anytime you bring in a middleman, anytime there is a separate organization that's not the US government, think about it. In order for them to function, they've got to bring in revenues. So they're now trying to take advantage of your desperation to want to get a refund as quickly as possible, and now they're going to make you pay. And I'm telling you what's going to happen. The moment you pay $200, then there'll be another glitch. But that's not the point. The point is that when you are dealing with individual institutions, you want to be as direct as possible. I said I was 52 and that I am doing everything in my power to maintain health and wellness. 52 is the new 22. So when I am eating food, I recognize that the closer to the source, the better it is for my 52-year-old body. There's going to be more benefit to me eating a tomato than it is to eating ketchup. The further I get away from the source, then the worse it's going to be an impact on my body. The same thing happens with financial institutions. The closer you are to the source, the better it's going to be for your financial wellness, for your economic health. So whoever this organization is, you're getting further and further away from the IRS. So you can accomplish every single thing that you said with this individual with the IRS. Now, yes, it may take longer. Yes, you may have to go more by the book, but this organization is preying on the fact that you have desperation and you want it now, want my money now, and they're banking on that. So that to me really is what Be Your Own Bank is all about, because you're putting yourself in a position where you deal with the source, understand the incentive structure of the source, and put yourself in the best position. So as I promised, I made a comment about back-end and front-end managing, so let me explain that real quick. Because every time I talk to this former student, I say to him, you always call me after it goes down. But you need to take steps to put yourself in a position where you'll be in a situation before it goes down. And I call that back-end managing. I've noticed that we as a society are big at back-end managing. Hip-hop. I am a child of hip-hop. So grew up in the 80s, I feel like hip-hop is my sister because I grew up with her. In fact, I used to teach a class called The Economic Impact of Hip-Hop on Society. So there's a Young Jeezy line where he says, Lord, don't let me go to jail tonight. And every time I hear that, I say, Jeezy in his lyric is calling on the Lord to not let him go to jail tonight. But there had to be some steps and some decisions he made prior to that moment that could have kept him from having to write that line. That's what I call back-end managing. Lord, don't let me go to jail tonight. But what'd you do last month? What'd you do last year? So what made this concept of back-end managing come up to me was this. I do not read the paper. I do not watch the news, have not done either in the last 20 years. But I remember being at my mother's house on a Sunday, and she was reading this newspaper article. And my mother's the type of person, because she knows I don't watch the news, one of her, I need to see a therapist. One of her controlling issues is to tell me about the news because I don't watch it. So she's telling me about this newspaper article, and the newspaper article says this. City of Tampa residents are mad because A, they've changed the ticket price for running a red light from $75 to $200. B, City of Tampa residents are mad because it was supposed to start on July 15th, but they started charging people $200 before July 15th. This page, this article was the whole front page, and then it was on A16. So it literally was 2 full pages of this article about why City of Tampa residents are mad because of this red light rule. At no point, 0 points in the article did they ever say, don't run the red light. So that is my example. That's the day that I created back-end managing. We always wait till something goes down, then we want to manage it. And that's the beauty of A, the Be Your Own Bank movement, because being a bank is about understanding and controlling your own infrastructure. So you put is you putting yourself in a position where you enroll, learn, and earn so we can understand how this works and we can set ourselves up for the future and set ourselves up for our children's future so we don't have to wait for something to go down and say, okay, now what do we do? So I'm really glad that I went from that phone call to back-end managing because I think that's a really strong concept for us to think about as we continue to put ourselves in the best position. So we can front-end manage this thing by taking advantage of the power of the unmuted mic and ask some questions. I don't know how many seniors in my collegiate academic career as a professor have come to me and said, Doc, I need to find a job. Yeah, but we could have talked about that as a freshman. Then we could have layered you an infrastructure for you to have it. Now you're a senior and you want to take care of it. So understand as we move in future finance doctor calls and we understand the power of the unmuted mic, that we front end manage instead of back end manage, because guess who does that? Banks. And we want to be our own bank and we want to control our own economic infrastructure. So let's continue to do so in future training calls and the future talks with the finance doctor by unmuting our mic. Thank you very much for your attention. And I will now turn this call back over to our host and or hostess.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Bythewood. Tonight's call was phenomenal. And ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly why we do what we do. This is exactly why the BYOB movement is what it is. So we don't have any back-end management. So we are not working from behind, and we can take advantage and we can take control of our finances by enrolling, learn, and put yourself in a position of profit. It is just that simple. Now, how do you do that? That means that you make sure you are in Orlando, Florida this weekend. If you're in driving distance, you want to be in Orlando at the BYOB Expo, Be Your Own Bank Expo. And also, how do you do that? You don't want back-end management. You don't want to wait and hear the testimonies. You don't want to wait and see the results of other people. You want to make sure you're registered. You want to make sure that July the 20th, you are registered and you are in the place in Jacksonville, Florida for the BYOB Leadership and Development Conference. That is so important to what you're doing. Dr. Bythewood just shared with you how banks plan, how banks think forward. They think ahead and not backwards and not behind. So you have to make that shift. You have to make that adjustment and put yourself in the place July the 20th. Now you register at byobchallenge.net. Get your tickets and get registered today. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a Power Pack Tuesday. We got to the why behind the what and the back end management. So tonight has been powerful. So I will see you once again on Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our BYOB Tools training, followed by a talk with the finance doctor, your RX for FOREX. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a wonderful and blessed evening, and this will officially conclude this call.